Hey everybody, thank you for joining us. This is Steve Alcorn, and I'm here in Chicago with Danny Alcorn.
Nice to see you all here.
We're normally working separately. I'm often in Orlando, but I am up here for the weekend, and so we decided that we'd do the podcast together, all from one spot. And we certainly got a beautiful day here in Chicago. It's a lot cooler than it is in Orlando right now. We're going to chat for just a couple of minutes about the guests that we have online while we wait for everybody to sort of assemble in the room. We've got a really good turnout today, about 300 folks almost that have signed up for the webinar today, and I think that they're all going to get a lot out of it. You're going to find that there's really a lot of content. This is not a fluff webinar or a sales pitch. It's really going to show you some useful tools that all of we indie authors find invaluable as we go out into the marketplace. I know Danny has been doing a bunch of research because we're updating our Publish Your Book Now class, since CreateSpace is folding their operations into Amazon's Kindle Direct and paperback publishing divisions. And so, Danny, why don't you tell us a little bit about the indie author statistics that you've been looking at today?
Yeah, there's some really interesting stuff out there in terms of, how the market is changing and how people are selling in bookstores, on Amazon. Today, obviously, we're going to talk about how you can get your books on the shelves of retail shops, which is a market that's often neglected by indie authors. So
I was impressed in the statistics that you were looking at, what a huge percentage of all of the books that are being published today are actually from indie authors, whether ebooks or physical books, and also where the revenues are coming. It's definitely the growing trend. It's now dwarfing the revenues from traditional publishing in many areas. So
yeah, it's amazing how much, and if you look year over year, the even if the number of titles is not changing that dramatically, the revenue that indie authors can make on their own books is growing all the time.
Yeah, it was staggering statistics. Well, today we're going to be hosting Amy Collins and Daniel Hall, who are going to talk about a facet of indie publishing that is one of the most challenging, which is to move beyond just selling your books on Amazon and actually getting them into retail bookstores. And I've known Daniel Hall for a while now. He does a really good podcast called Real Fast Results. I did it with him, I guess, a couple of months ago. We had a great time on there. You can look that up online and listen to it. And also, he publishes books from the podcast, so he did a beautiful job on that one. I was really impressed with it. And we also know each other because you've been reading through the updates that I've been giving you the last couple of months on this campaign that we're doing to drive our book, Write and Grow Rich, to be the USA Today #1 bestseller when it launches in October. So we've been going through this whole complex process of generating advanced publicity for that, and Daniel and I are both authors of that book. So look for that. We'll give you more information about that. I know a lot of you have pre-ordered the book, and I appreciate that. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Danny, who's going to introduce Daniel, and then I'm going to sit back and listen to the webinar.
Yeah, well, Daniel Hall is a busy guy. He's an author, speaker, consultant, coach, lawyer, nurse, and the host of the Real Fast Results podcast. So he keeps busy. He's also the author of Real Fast Writing, a book that details 25 of the hottest and easy to implement strategies that you can use to write more, write better, and write with panache. And we're so glad that he's joining us tonight to speak with all of you. So without further ado, here's Daniel.
Thank you so much, Danny. I really, really appreciate this opportunity to present to your audience. And I know it's a really a very, very savvy audience, and they're smart because of you all. So good on you for following Danny and Steve, because they know what the heck they're talking about. I also wanted to make sure that you understand what our promise here is today, so that you and I and my good friend Amy Collins, we all are kind of seeing eye to eye on what's about to happen here. And our promise is actually on the screen right now. Basically, in this presentation, we're going to show you exactly how to make money selling books to the book and gift store markets, and in that process gain, of course, far greater profits, and more importantly, or almost as importantly, let's put it that way, build a bigger platform of people that love you and your work. So that's our promise today, and I'm mostly the MC here. The real star of the show is my good friend and business partner, Amy Collins, and there's simply no one on the planet that has a better pedigree to actually teach you this than Amy, and here's why. First off, she's been on all sides of the book buying transactions. She started as a book buyer herself for a chain of New York bookstores. Then she went on to actually sell, to be on that side of the equation. For 15 years, she was a sales rep for Prima, and then also went on to be a sales director for Adams Media, which, by the way, is a $500 million publishing company that also runs, by the way, Writer's Digest and Writer's Market. In addition to that, she's been, for the last 12 years, the president of her own book distribution company called New Shelves Books. And she's a featured columnist in over a dozen top publishing blogs. And get this, she's actually on the advisory board of directors at Ingram Spark, POD. In addition to that, she is also an author herself, so she's definitely been on that side of it, with a publication, a traditionally published book called The Little Things, and then another one that she self-published called The Right Way. So she's seen this and sold books into this market from a variety of different directions, and she knows how to do it. Not only that, Amy has been selling to books in big chain stores, including airport stores and independent retailers from all over the world since 1996. In fact, she's been actually been responsible for selling, get this, personally selling over 40 million books at over $20 million in revenues over the last 20 years. So I am very pleased and honored to present to you Amy Collins. Amy, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, Daniel. Danny, Steve, thank you for having us. We are looking forward very much to this presentation. So let's jump right in. Let's enough about me, enough about Daniel. I would like to get to know some of you guys a little bit. For those of you who have found the Q&A box, there's a lot of you on the line right now. For those of you who have found the Q&A box, if you can hear me clearly, I don't mean you have to enjoy the sound of my voice, but if you can hear me clearly, I would love it if you'd let me know. Can you throw a yes or a thumbs up signal or something in the Q&A box to let me know? Kelly, Charlene, Jim, great. Thank you. Oh, yes. Guys, keep it coming. Great. As long as you can all hear me, that's wonderful. I'd like to just do a little housekeeping. We're going to get started, and I'm going to tell you exactly what we're going to cover, but I would tell you the following. For those of you who are interested in the materials that I present, we are actually going to give you a lot of hands-on executable things to do. So for those of you who kind of are like me, I'm kind of half watching my webinars, and I'm also kind of half watching reruns of Downton Abbey at the same time. You might want to just get a pen and paper out, because we are going to be covering a lot of very specific things. There's going to be websites given to you. So I would suggest that you get ready with some of the note-taking, however you guys do that. And I would also let you know that at the end of this session, we are going to offer a bonus offer for those of you who make it all the way to the end. Again, little Amy goes a long way, but if you stick with me, we're going to be able to offer you these materials and give you an opportunity to be able to get some of this stuff I'm talking about. But when we're done here at the end of this session, you are going to know exactly, very specifically, how bookstores buy books. You're going to know in detail how the bookstores, how books get from, let's say, your coffee table or your garage where they're sitting, and they're actually, and how they end up on the shelves of the bookstores. How do bookstores actually buy books from publishers and authors like you? We're going to go very step by step through how to approach the bookstores. There's an attitude that I take that I have found to be extremely successful, which I'm going to teach you. And most importantly, I'm going to give you specific examples of the materials and the tools that you're going to need to allow you to get started. I would love it tomorrow morning if you were, took this hour that we're about to spend together and used what I'm about to teach you to create the tools, the materials, the emails, the outreach that you need so you could start reaching out to bookstores right away. So Danny was, and I in Chicago, which is great. That's where I was actually for the last few days. I was speaking at the Catholic Publishers Association in Chicago. What a great town. It's been a long time since I've been there, and I loved it. But Danny was just talking about all of the stats and the information she was getting about independent publishers. Well, I want to give you a couple stats about independent bookstores. 2 years ago, when I first started teaching this class, the United States, I'm just talking about the US at this point, but the United States had 1,690 independent bookstores whose doors were open and who were doing business. These were bookstores, 1,690. These were bookstores that sold new books. Yes, some of them may also have sold used books, but that's the number of independent bookstores that sold new books straight out of the box to a customer base. That was 2 years ago. Fast forward a short 24 months, and according to the American Booksellers Association, and I got this number directly from Statistica.com, so you don't have to take my word for it, look it up. According to the American Booksellers Association, today there are 2,481 independent bookstores. 2,481 independent bookstores. That is a net gain in 2 years of 800 independent bookstores that have opened. A net gain of 800. It's unbelievable. I'm absolutely blown away. And I hope you will enjoy what I'm about to teach you, because independent bookstores, besides the fact that they're growing, Barnes and Noble's in the news every day, they're shutting down stores, they're getting sued, they're suing other people. I love Barnes and Noble, don't get me wrong, I hang out there, but they're not growing the way independent bookstores are. This is an absolutely unprecedented, phenomenal amount of growth. And the other thing I like about indie bookstores, besides the fact there's so many of them, there's more independent bookstores now, far more than there are Barnes and Nobles and Books A Million combined. They are definitely winning the race. But they all have their own bestseller lists. If you ever wanted to get on a bestseller list and you found yourself stuck and that you couldn't get on that bestseller list, a much easier way to start growing your bestseller list possibilities is to start selling to the independent market. They all have their own bestseller lists. And the employees at the independent bookstores, they practice something called hand selling, where at Barnes and Noble or some of the bigger chains, while I love B&N, I love Costco, but those employees don't decide what books go on displays or what books are going to be recommended to their customers. But if you are an independent publisher, and I've got an example here, you can see here on the right the cover of the book, The Lace Reader. Now, I worked with Brunonia Berry several years ago. She was an independent publisher. It was her first book. She self-published herself under her own imprint. And she worked with me, and at that time I was working with a company called Blue Sky. And we pitched her book to Barnes and Noble. We pitched her book to Books A Million, but we also pitched it to the independents. Those independent buyers and bookstore employees loved her book. And they quickly, as a group, individually and again as a crew, they started hand selling. They started recommending her book to their customers. Whenever a customer would come in and say, hey, you know, Alan, I loved that last book you recommended. What else have you got? What's the next book you've got on tap? More and more often, independent bookstores are becoming known for curating books and recommending books. There was a study that recently came out, it was about 5 months ago, from a company called Verso Digital, V-E-R-S-O. And Verso Digital, after interviewing over 1,200 readers, was able to determine that almost 82% of new book purchases happened because of personal recommendations. And folded into that personal recommendations, 30%, almost a third of those recommendations were made by bookstore employees. They considered those personal recommendations because of the relationship. You want independent bookstores to be on your side. You want independent bookstores to review your book and to recommend your book. And so pitching yourself to them is a fantastic way to get into even bigger venues. I love independent bookstores, as I've said. I love working with the employees. I love all of the sales and the money that I can make from the independent marketplace. But there's a number of people who want to go bigger than that. I worked with an author a few years ago. Actually, it was more than a few at this point. She too was self-published, as I said. Rebecca had put out a book called Hostile Witness by herself. And she lived in central Pennsylvania. And Rebecca, she started selling her book through an independent bookstore. At the time, it was called Chester County Books. They have since closed their doors. As I said, this was a couple of years ago. But Chester County Books started selling Rebecca's book, Hostile Witness. And within no more than 4 months, somewhere between 3 months and 4 months, they had personally sold, that one store had sold over 5,000 copies of her book. And for those of you who are saying, well, how did she do that? Let me tell you, this is how it worked. She partnered up with Chester County Books. They started displaying her book, and she started advertising their store. She would do Facebook ads. She would advertise online. She advertised in newspapers. Every time she went on the radio, she would tell whomever was listening that her book was available through Chester County Books. They, in turn, loving the fact that they were getting all this advertising, they started displaying her book in the front windows and a local author, best-selling author, and soon enough she became a best-selling author, not just at Chester County, but a national best-selling author. So much so that she eventually was picked up by Macmillan, and she became a USA Today best-selling author, and she now makes a fantastic living as an author. It all started because she made the commitment and she focused in on independent bookstores to start. She wouldn't even look at the bigger chains. She wanted to work with them, and she was rewarded. And so some of the best ways to springboard and to launch your business is through these smaller stores. That was a few years ago, as I said, but just in the last few months, I can tell you that Samuel Marquis, I used to call it Marquis, but it's not, it's Marquis. Samuel Marquis, a fantastic author that Daniel and I work with and who actually takes a couple of classes from us. Samuel was having a very hard time getting into Barnes & Noble. And it confused him because he was selling like crazy on Amazon. So what we did is we started pitching him to the independents. Within the first week, we got him into, now it says we got him into 20 bookstores, but I'll tell you it was a lot more than that. But there were 20 bookstores around the country. Deseret Books took him in. He was in Anderson's, and we pitched him to several of the independents across the country. He was based in Colorado. He was in Tattered Cover. And all of a sudden, yes, he was selling on Amazon. He'd been selling on Amazon, but all of a sudden, he started popping up on bestseller lists at independent bookstores across the country. So we were able to take that information within 2 weeks and pitch him and his entire series of books to Barnes & Noble. And less than a month later, Barnes & Noble decided to stock him in every store in Colorado. He has grown since then. That was just the quick trajectory. So, and for those of you who are saying, well, that's fine for them, but that's just them, that's not me, I'm going to show you exactly how it is you. We're going to talk about how self-published books and independent books can get into these independent bookstores far more easily, and how it is possible then to use that springboard to get into Costco, to get into Barnes & Noble, to get into some of the places you want to be. But first, you have to get into the stores. And I want to just be clear that when I say stores, I am talking about independent bookstores that sell new books, but I'm also talking about other sorts of stores. I would like you to consider that there is a world out there of retail. If you looked out, if you went to any major thoroughfare, any street in any town, big or small, you would find a lot of storefronts, a lot of shops, a lot of places that could sell your book. Some of the places where my novelist clients are and my children's book clients are, I've got a number of students who've written nonfiction how-to books or self-help books, and they are selling their books at yoga studios, vitamin shops. I've got a client who sells she's got this wonderful novel about the car culture back in the 50s. It's totally fiction, and she sells it like crazy at all the local auto dealerships in her area. I have another student who wrote this fantastic cookbook, sugary dessert cookbook, and she sells it at there's this chain of ice cream shops in Rochester, New York. It's a custard shop called Abbott's Custards, and she ended up getting her cookbook on the counter of every Abbott's Custard in Rochester, New York. And that was a lot of stores, and she made a lot of money. So when I talk about bookstores, yes, bookstores, but I also want you to consider that there's pet stores and hardware stores. And I would suggest that before you go much further into the world of selling books, that you really take a hard look at what the market is. And this is how I do it. I'm just going to give you a little person that you didn't ask for my opinion, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. Here's my advice. What I like to do is I like to get in the car in the passenger seat and have a friend drive in the driver's seat, drive me around my own hometown. And I sit there with a pen and paper, or sometimes, depends on how techy you are, take your cell phone out and get your camera ready. But what I do is I take pen and paper and I write down the list of every company we pass by. I go to downtown Rochester, downtown Buffalo, downtown Albany, any of the cities near me. I go to the major shopping areas and I have my friend drive slowly down the street. And I will start writing down every store that we pass. There's a dry cleaner, there's a bagel shop, there's a post office, there's a diner, there's a bicycle shop, here's a car dealership, here's a car auto fix-it repair shop. And I don't judge, I don't edit, I just write it down. Because I lived in my town for so long, I don't even see these places anymore. There is a bagel shop across the street from my office. New Shelves Books is based in a pretty busy business district in Rochester, New York. We are a book sales, distribution, and marketing company. And I did not know that right across the street, because I don't look, was a bagel shop that once a week hosts a book club gathering. I had no idea. A book club meets across the street from my office. I'm supposedly an expert. I missed that. I promise you that if you start going down the street and really jotting down all of the stores in your area, you will be flabbergasted at the companies that you didn't know existed in your own hometown. And then what I do is I stop in and I see those places and I just look around to see if maybe my books would fit on their counter. Do they have shelf space? Last year, Daniel, who just introduced me, Daniel was waiting for his wife to pick up glasses. I will never forget this story. He called me absolutely flabbergasted. He was sitting at a glasses store waiting for his wife to pick up the glasses she'd ordered, and sitting on the counter was an entire array of 4 or 5 different novels, and I think 1 or 2 nonfiction books. And they were for sale. They were sitting there, a little stack of them face out in 4 or 5 different shelves, right eye level. because they knew that people who were picking up glasses, in many cases, this company knew that readers, in many cases, avid readers are also glasses wearers. They also knew that in many cases, couples come and one of them needs glasses and the other one's sitting, usually bored out of his or her mind, sitting in a chair waiting for the other person to finish picking out their glasses. Hours can go by in these places, and they wanted to capture them. I believe the name of the company was Warby. Daniel will, maybe I've got it wrong, but I will never forget that story. He called me and he said, Amy, there's books for sale here. That's what I want from you. I want to teach you guys how and why, what the actual process is that stores buy books, eyeglass stores, yoga stores, bookstores. And the good news is, and this is absolutely true, you can take this to the bank, that all the stores that I'm talking about can and do buy books from self-published authors and independent publishers. If you've ever heard, or if someone's ever told you, well, we don't take print on demand, or we don't take self-published books, that's just not true. So many of my students, all of them actually, all of my students for the most part, are self-published or micro-published, or however you want to call it, including one of our students, Rhonda here. She's got a book now. She's got 2 of them out, but at the time she had one called Natural Childbirth Exercises. And she took the exact steps that I'm teaching you now, and she got her book into over 260 independent stores and Barnes and Nobles in just under 3 months. Her book is self-published. It's completely self-published. It doesn't have, it's got her name on it. She doesn't even have a publisher name. She and Sam Marquis and Rebecca Harrington and all these people that I'm talking about, some of the bigger sellers, Christy Nichols, who did the Code Red book, she's self-published. You may have heard of the whole Code Red phenomenon, the exercise and fitness expert, Christy Nichols from Code Red. She got into tons, and she's independently published. She published herself. And the first step to understanding how to get your print on demand or your self-published book into the stores is it's all about the wholesalers. For those of you who are wondering how books get books onto their shelves, for the most part, in almost all cases, the bookstore has a few wholesalers that they like to buy from. Now, a wholesaler, for those of you who are unfamiliar, a wholesaler is a company whose entire business model and whose job is to purchase books from publishers and to turn around and sell them to bookstores and hardware stores and pet stores and libraries. These wholesalers buy books like yours, and their job is to have these books ready to go when the bookstores kick in and when the bookstores want to order them. So before you go to a store and tell them all about your book and convince them that your book belongs on their shelves, you really need to be listed at least at one wholesaler. I'm curious. I'm going to ask you guys to go back to the Q&A box, and I'm going to ask you, how many of you guys are print on demand or self-published and use Ingram Spark or Lightning Source? Would you throw a yes or a me into the Q&A box? I'm curious how many of you. There's a lot of you on the line, but I would be curious. Okay, so for those of you who, okay, we've got a number of you. That's wonderful. Ingram Spark is a print on demand company owned by the Ingram family in Laverne, Tennessee. That is a sister company to Ingram Wholesaler, and this Ingram print on demand company called Ingram Spark. For those of you who have never heard of it, I highly recommend you take a look at ingramspark.com and consider putting some of your books up, because if you get your book into Ingram Spark, and if you get your print on demand system going through them as well as CreateSpace, your book will instantly be coded as available through Ingram Wholesaler. And one of the nice things about being listed at Ingram Wholesaler is that it is the largest book wholesaler in the country. Nobody's bigger. Baker and Taylor is a close second here in the US, but some of the things that I have been told over and over again by book buyers across the country is that they want to work with wholesalers, because if a book is at a wholesaler, if a wholesaler has it, they know the book is legitimate. They fully understand that that the book has been vetted and that it's ready to go with the wholesaler. The other thing is ease. Most of my buyers, they place their orders once a week or every 2 weeks, and if the wholesaler doesn't have it, they just don't bother. I am a self-published author and a traditionally published author, and I'm here to tell you they're both hard. If your book is not ready to go, no matter how much the store may have wanted my book, if they can't order it from a wholesaler, in many cases they will simply skip it, because as unique and as fabulous as I think I am, they don't need my book that badly. The book buyer is not going to go spend 20, 30 minutes tracking down my book. They just want to look it up at their wholesaler and they want to be able to order it. And the last thing I want to keep in mind is for those of you who say, but I'm not with any wholesalers and I don't want to be with any wholesalers. I just want to sell to the books directly, the bookstores directly. Okay, you can do that. There's something called consignment. You can call up a bookstore and work out a deal where they will take 40% off the retail price of your book and they will stock your book. But at the end of every month, you have to contact them. You need to get a hold of them and find out how many they sold. You need to send them an invoice. They have to cut you a check. And that's fine when you've got 5 or 6 stores that you're dealing with. But guys, you know what I want for you? I want you in 500 stores. If you take the advice that I'm about to walk you through and the materials and the stuff, you can be in hundreds of stores in a short period of time. And do you have the time to ship books to 500 stores? Do you have the time to send out 500 invoices every month? I don't think so. You need a wholesaler. You need to go through Ingram. You need to go through Baker and Taylor. And you need to go through some of the wholesalers that are out there. If you're on the East Coast, Bookazine. If you're on the West Coast, there's America West. There's a lot of great wholesalers out there, and they love working with talented authors. They love working with authors who understand how the market works. So just so we can all fully understand exactly how the stores get the books as I promised, again, it starts with you getting your book listed at the wholesaler. And then the books are presented to the book buyers at the store. After you're listed at a wholesaler, when you're perfectly comfortable with that, then it's time to let the store know, the book buyers at the store, know that your book exists. And I'm going to show you what to tell them in a second. The book will then be purchased from the wholesaler or the publisher. In most cases, the store will want to order from a wholesaler, as I said. And that order will come in to the wholesaler. And in most cases, if you're with Ingram Spark or if you're with Create Space or if you're with any of these print-on-demand companies, what'll happen is the books will then be ordered from your print-on-demand company. If you have the books yourself, if you got listed at the wholesalers and the books are in your garage, well, then that order comes to you. The books are then sent to the store. You will take care of that. Or if you print on demand, your print on demand company will take care of it. And then 90 days later, you get money in your account. It's pretty simple. The stores buy from the wholesaler. The wholesaler buys at that point from the print on demand company or directly from the publisher. The books get shipped to the store. The store will sell the book. You get paid approximately 90 days later, give or take. So depending on where you fit in this order, if you use print on demand or don't, this is still the same process for bookstores everywhere. So I'm curious, for those of you who are jumping in now, a number of you said that you were working with wholesalers, but with those of you who feel comfortable, I would love to know, is there anyone here who would be willing to raise their hand and say me? I've got another question for you. How many of you here have books, a stack of books in your possession and you're not with a wholesaler? How many of you here have books sitting in your garage or in a warehouse somewhere and wholesalers have not been part of your dynamic up till now? Because I have a little secret for you if there's any. No one? You guys all are with wholesalers? Okay. Oh, okay, we got one there. If you're not with a wholesaler, and you're not print on demand, for those of you who are still working through your system and you've got the books, there is a middle ground. There are types of companies called fulfillment companies. And for those of you who have 100, 1,000, however many books in your garage, and you're not with a wholesaler, it is often a fantastic idea to use a fulfillment company that has relationships with wholesalers. Companies like Pathway in Keene, New Hampshire, or Itasca out in Minnesota. Itasca and Pathways are two companies I can recommend because they're debt-free. They've been in business since the 70s. They've got tons of integrity. And you can often hire a company like Pathways or Itasca to get you into these wholesalers as well. All right. So that is exactly how stores buy books. That is how wholesalers work. That is how the bookstores, they'll end up paying you through the wholesaler eventually. So who's ready to figure out exactly how to pitch your book? Let's say your book is print on demand and you're already set up at a wholesaler, or your book is in the garage and you're about to set up with wholesalers, but it's time to approach the stores. What I like to do is I like to get my brain and my attitude shifted, that I'm not trying to sell them my book. I try and think to myself, how can I be of most help to that store? What is it that the book buyers are going through? How can I be most of service to that store and to that book buyers? See, I only have at best a few seconds. Seconds, not when people talk about their elevator pitch and they talk about 30 seconds, I laugh really hard. You don't have 30 seconds with a book buyer. You have 3 or 4 seconds to try and get their attention. And the easiest and fastest way to get them to stop what they're doing and really give you their full attention is to know how the bookstore and gift market works. That if you keep front of mind the fact that stores have goals, wants, needs, that we need to understand. When we approach a book buyer, yes, we're trying to get the store to buy our books, but if we approach them with what they need, what their goals are, if we try and keep in mind that this is a business, that they've got things that they have to accomplish, and if we approach them in such a manner that we show them that we understand how their business works and what their criteria is, if we've got the right approach, we can often turn a book buyer from saying, oh, I don't take self-published books, or I don't take print on demand. And quite often when you approach them in a different way, in not trying to sell your book, but trying to figure out how and what they need to make their day better, you will often find a book buyer is more than willing to help you, more than willing to jump in. So here are some of the things that booksellers and book buyers want. Here is the list. This is by no means a complete list, but buyers need to buy books that will make them money. Stores are not in the business of taking a chance on new authors. They never were. That was a myth. Book buyers, they work for people, or if they own the store. Book buyers are business people who want to keep their jobs, and the biggest and most important way that they get judged, the way that they find out if they're doing a good job, is, are they buying books that sell? And so they only want to buy books that will make their store money, and they only want to work with authors that understand that it's not their job to take a chance on a new author. It's not a store's job to give the book a few inches of shelf space so that browsers can find it. It is their job to pick books that are going to drive people into their stores. These stores have to keep the lights on. They have to pay their employees. They have to pay their rent. And these book buyers, it is their job to put books in the store that will drive people into the stores. And they want to keep their jobs. They want to look good to their bosses. They want a Christmas bonus just like anyone else does. So when we approach a store, we do it in a certain way. We approach the book buyer with the idea that we've got a book that will really appeal to their customer base. And we've got a book that we're going to promote, and we'll talk a little bit about promotion and marketing in a minute, but that we're going to promote to their customer base so that they can feel confident that we're not asking them just to throw our book on a shelf and hope for the best. We're going to partner with them. We're going to offer them content. You know what else book buyers want? They want to please their customers, and their customers get newsletters. They get emails. Diesel Books out on the West Coast has a fantastic email program. And one of the things that I love to offer the Diesel store chain, when my authors, especially if they've written a self-help book, or if they've written a cookbook or a health book, something that has advice, come up with a top 10 list and offer it to a store, offer it to several stores, in different parts of the country. That top 10 list would be wonderful content for their website. They're always looking to make their job easier. Can you imagine if you were a book buyer and an author walked into your store and said, "Hi, my name is Amy, and I wrote this self-help book, and it's really good. It's the best on the market. There's no other book out there like it. You really should try my book." That's one approach. Another approach is, "Hi, my name is Amy Collins. I've written a self-help book actually based on helping women de-stress during really busy times in their life. And I've got this top 10 list that's kind of funny and it's very, very helpful. And I'd love to offer it to you, that you might put it on your website, or you can offer it to your clients. I also, because it's a book about de-stressing, I have this gift basket that I give away one a month. I give away these gift baskets as part of a drawing. Why don't I give one to your store, and you can raffle it off or offer it in a drawing to your customers as a way of, it's coming up on the holidays, and women are incredibly stressed, more so than men, trying to get everything done for the holidays. What if we offered your customers a chance to win this incredibly luxurious de-stress gift basket? I have this book called, Stress Pisses Me Off. I'm making that up, guys. I'm just making up this entire phenomenon scenario on the top of my head. I've got this book that stress ticks me off, and I'd love it if to put a couple in your stores and see if they sell. But I'd also love to be of help to the store and to drive some attention to the book. So why don't we offer a gift basket as a contest, or a top 10 list for your newsletter? Guys, I'm just spitballing here, but there's so much that you can offer a store. And those two ideas, one of them, the top 10 list, didn't cost you a thing. It only cost you time. And the other one, the gift basket, that just cost you money. It's not hard to, walk into a store and buy a gift basket or put one together. Please do not put your gift basket together from Amazon.com and then walk into a bookstore. Not cool. Bookstores do not care, nor do they want to hear about Amazon in any way, shape, or form. So is that clear, guys? I hope I'm being clear. I'd love it if you give me a yes or no. Are we good on how stores get books and the type of attitude we're going to take when we approach the buyers? Because I'm about to walk you through an actual email, and I'm going to give you the materials that you need to pitch them. But I want to make sure that I'm being clear on the right attitude. Okay, good. Well, that's lovely. That's wonderful. And thank you. I will be answering any questions you guys might have at the end. Feel free to punch questions into this Q&A, although I love that you're actively listening and you're answering my questions. If something I say sparks a question in you, please throw it into the Q&A box. Daniel will flag them, and we will, Steve and everyone, they're all taking a look. They'll flag them, and at the end of the session, I'll be happy to answer them. I won't go anywhere until all of your questions are answered. So let's put together now what I would consider to be a killer pitch kit. We're going to put together the materials and the tools. And when I told you I was going to give you the specific tools that you needed, that you could go out and sell these books even starting tomorrow, here you go. So we know that you have to be listed at the wholesaler. We know that you can do that by going through Ingram Spark. You can also do it in many cases by going through a fulfillment house like Pathways or Itasca. If you don't want to go print on demand, I totally get it. I get nothing for recommending any of these options. I am agnostic on how you want to. If you're print on demand, that's great. If you choose not to be print on demand, I don't care. but somehow you have to get into the wholesalers. You have to approach the stores with the right attitude. You have to be thinking not about how great your book is, but how great you can be at driving customers to the stores. And now we're going to put together the materials that's going to make life so easy for the book buyers that they're going to want to work with you like crazy. And it starts with a killer sales sheet. You're going to need a sales sheet that has book data on it. Here's an example of the sales sheets that I put together. One of my students came out with this book, this book about getting through divorce, Divorce Simply Stated. And this sales sheet has all of the bells and whistles that a sales sheet should have, but it also has the basic info that a book buyer needs. They need to see the cover. They need to know exactly how much the book costs, what the ISBN is, who the publisher is. They're going to want to know the page count and the trim size. They're going to want to know if you're available and at what wholesalers you're available. Make life easy on the buyer. Put all the information in the area. See where I just circled there? Give the buyer a fighting chance by putting all of their data in one easy place. Quick description about your book. Keep it short, guys, and make sure that every sentence in this sales sheet, that every sentence of your description is focused on making the book buyer's life easier. It's very tempting to take your back cover copy or your Amazon copy and throw it into cut and paste it into a sales sheet. I get it. That would be easy. But here's the thing. Your Amazon copy, what you write for Amazon and what you write for the back cover of your book, that's geared towards readers. That's trying to convince readers that your book is really good and that they should buy your book. This sheet is about convincing book buyers that your book belongs on their shelves. Slightly different customer. And do you remember just a slide or two ago, we were talking about what book buyers need. They need to buy books that are going to be marketed. They need to want to buy books that are going to drive people into their stores. So when you're talking about the book and when you are talking about yourself as an author, yes, it's lovely that you live in Orlando, Florida with your 3 kittens, Mitzi, Mopsy, and Muffy. That's cute, that's adorable, but unless you've written a children's book about those 3 kittens, it's not a real selling point for book buyers. Book buyers want to know that you are going to be hitting the Orlando and South Florida and Central Florida market really hard. They're going to want to see your marketing plan. They don't, so much want to know that you live with your wife and 3 kids. What they want to know is what research have you done for the novel that you've written? Have you won any awards? Are you actively at this point working on any other novels? Do you have other books coming out? These are the things that book buyers want to know because it tells them that you are serious as an author. And your marketing plan, which includes these comparative titles. Buyers are going to want to know, are you taking out ads? Not Amazon ads, keep in mind. But, are you doing any advertising? Are you getting reviews? If you're getting reviews, may I recommend, let's jump ahead to another sheet, that you take all those reviews and you cut and paste them into a sheet for them to read. If you're getting endorsements from people. And how do you get endorsements? You see this list here, down here at the bottom of comparative titles? Here, I'll circle it again. There's the circle. I'll go back and forth all day long. If you've got, a half a dozen or so titles that you feel confident are an apples to apples comparison to your book, if you've written a romance novel about a time traveler in Scotland, well, it's a pretty fair shot that maybe fans of Diana Gabaldon will also want to read your book. So make sure that you've reached out to Diana Gabaldon. Ask her if she'd be at all interested in reading your book and giving you her honest opinion. That's how tons of authors get endorsements. You ask your fellow authors if they would like to read your book, and if they have the time to give their opinion of your book, you might end up with some wonderful testimonials for some very big authors. And then you can put those testimonials, you can put those reviews all sorts of places, on your website, on sheets like this. Are you doing podcasts? Are you doing interviews? For those of you right now who are freaking out, for those of you who are saying, oh gosh, I'm not doing any of these things, that's okay. That's all right. It's not too late. You can totally do them now. It is never too late to start asking for reviews and testimonials, ever. It is never too late to start going out to bloggers and asking them if they'd like to interview you on a topic. And if you're a novelist who right now is saying, well, I don't have any expertise, I have nothing to be interviewed about, that is so not true. Every novelist I've ever worked with has done research. If you've written a book about a murder back in the 70s that takes place, on a baseball field, there's tons of sports radio shows out there that you can talk to because you've done the research. You know who these people are. And you probably have a great deal of information about a time in history if you've written about a particular time in history for your novel. Maybe you've set your novel in a particular fictional part of Scotland. Well, did you go to Scotland? Maybe you can be interviewed about what's going on there. If you've written a thriller novel about the Supreme Court, you should definitely be reaching out to people and offering your book and your expertise to be interviewed on certain topics whenever the Supreme Court hits the news. Because when things get heavy in the news cycle, quite often editors and freelancers are looking for something lighter to connect to. Offer them that. Do a little bit of marketing. Once you're in a wholesaler and once you have some idea of who your comp titles are and a little bit of movement going on in your marketing, then it's time to really reach out to the bookstores. And for those of you who are a little nervous about getting on the phone, you will be thrilled to find out that the easiest, best way to sell to stores, whether it's a yoga studio or a hardware store or an independent bookstore, even, don't forget, there's still a few movie stores out there and still a few music stores. Entertainment is entertainment. But by far the easiest way to reach them is email. For those of you who are nervous about getting on the phone, the stores themselves, they may not be nervous about getting on the phone, but they're busy. In many cases, they're understaffed and they do not have the kind of time or information available. They can't just put things down if you stop by or if you call them, but they can sit down and answer their email at the end of a long day or in the morning before they go into work. So I would suggest that you start with an email. At least start that way. You can always stop by or call later. But if you're curious what your email should say, I would love to walk you through line by line. And I don't want all of you using this email verbatim, but this email that I'm about to walk you through takes everything we've talked about into account at the moment. So I would suggest that you open up your email address, you grab the email. You can find most book buyers, their contact information or how to submit a book is available on the website of any bookstore you're interested in. And what you do is you send an email to the store and you put right in the subject line that you're interested in promoting that store in your marketing, which is true. You're interested. You will tell anyone and their brother that if Greenbrier Books decides to stock your book, you would be happy to promote that store. You'll mention, let's say you're going to do a radio show. You will mention that your book is available at Greenbrier Books. You'll be posting it on your Facebook page. It doesn't even have to cost you any money to promote a store. You can start getting the word out and start driving people to Greenbrier Books. So start by putting in the subject line the name of your publisher, whatever it is, wants to promote Greenbrier Books in their book marketing. And here's the letter. Dear Sally. Now, some of these, you'll see some of my letters here are all caps. Some of these words are in all caps. The all caps of this email should be replaced with whatever information you think is pertinent. So the book buyer's name quite often is right on the website. If not, yes, pick up the phone. Pick up the phone and ask whoever answers the phone the name of the book buyer and can you have their email. So let's say it's Sally. Dear Sally, my name is Amy Collins, and I'm the author of a self-help book I was hoping you would consider stocking in your store as a test. I have sold 400 copies through the book and online market, and I said online. I didn't say Amazon. So if I've sold 400 copies on Amazon, what I say is I've sold 400 copies through the book and online market, and I am now working to move into the independent bookstore market. If you've written a children's book about a puppy and you're sending this email to hundreds of pet stores over the next few weeks, then this line will simply read, I have sold many copies. Let's say you haven't sold hardly any books. Let's say your book is kind of just languished there. Okay, so all you need to say is I have sold numerous copies or many copies through the book and online market, and I'm now working to move into the pet store market. Whatever the focus is, you can change up this sentence to make sense. Be honest, guys. If you've only sold 15 copies of your book, do not tell someone that you sold 1,500. If you can't give them a solid, several hundred copies to impress them, just simply say that you've sold many copies or numerous copies. Don't lie ever, because you'll get caught, and there's just no reason for that. The next line. We're about to launch a marketing campaign that includes, and then include whatever it is. It may simply be an online campaign, meaning you're going to start, telling everyone on Facebook. Or maybe you're going to do some print advertising. Maybe, and by print advertising, it could literally be in your church bulletin. If you belong to a big church in Dallas, Texas, there's a number of ways that you can advertise, and you've written a wonderful spiritual book. Talk to your church secretary about getting an announcement about your book into their newsletter. There you go, print advertising. Call your local radio station. I don't care what you do, but just mention it in the letter, and say that you're contacting whomever the name of the store is, Greenbrier Books, to let you know that there will be some demand during and after this campaign. Remember, I told you, stores want to work with authors that are going to drive people into their stores. And this letter is not talking about your book. We haven't even mentioned your book yet. Well, we have, sort of. We've mentioned what kind of book it is. But what we're doing at this point is we are setting the buyer up to let you know, as a professional publisher and author, that you understand their needs. They need some marketing. They need information. Now you can talk about your book. Stress, the name of my book, Stress Really Stresses Me Out. I'm making that up. Give them the ISBN. Don't make them hunt for it. Put it right in the letter. Is a book that helps women de-stress, especially during the holiday season. Whatever your book is about, one sentence, really short. The name of your book, the ISBN, is a book about, or you should say is a novel, or is a nonfiction account of, but keep it short, guys. One sentence. If you've written a book, a children's book about puppies, then that's what you say about it. It's a children's picture book based on a naughty puppy that escapes for the day, and just keep it short. That's it. They don't care. They really don't. They're not interested in the plot of your puppy book, no matter how touched we are. And you're going to include in this email, do you remember here? Let me go back. You're going to include your sales sheet. This sales sheet here, you're going to include any reviews or endorsements you've got. You don't need to tell them everything in the email, because once the marketing campaign begins, you're going to be directing readers to the stores that agree to stock it. So if you're willing, I'd like to send you a PDF of the book to review. You're just going to send them a PDF. Doesn't cost you anything. Again, the name of the book, Stress Stresses Me Out, is available at Ingram Wholesaler. I've attached a marketing plan and an informational sheet for you to review. As a book buyer, I appreciate this. You're not wasting my time. You're not making me read a 400-word email. You're keeping it really short. You've attached, or if you don't want to attach, a lot of people embed and actually embed the sales sheet and the marketing sheet underneath this cover letter right into the body of the email, so there's no attachments. I'm good either way, whatever is your preference. So then you ask the buyer to please give you a call or reply with a quick note that it's okay to send, and I'll get you that PDF or book right away. This sentence is important. You're not asking them to buy your book. You're simply asking for them to respond to you and so that you can send them a book. Excuse me. I think I may have the hiccups. You're not asking them to buy the book. You're just asking them to make a small decision. Can you send them a PDF totally free of the book? That is easy for them to hit reply and say, yes, go ahead and send me a copy. That sentence is important also because I'm going to talk to you in a second about how to follow up. And if you've put this sentence in, you have a great reason to follow up. Then simply just sign the email. I read an article recently that says don't sign your emails best, that's old-fashioned. Okay, I'll change that. I guess I'm an old-fashioned lady. So again, you've got this amazing cover letter, and you at this point are going to email them with your sales sheet and your marketing plan embedded into the email or attached as a PDF. And then you have the most wonderful excuse to follow up with them 4 or 5 days later. If you send an email to a bookstore that says all of these things, they may very well, a lot of them will hit reply and say, go ahead, send me the PDF. Now you've got a conversation going. You haven't asked them to buy the book. You're not freaking them out. You're just asking them to send you the book. Now you've got a conversation going. You can ask them a question. You can send them the book, and you can say, I notice on your website that you don't have any articles by any authors. Would you like some? Is there someone in your organization I can reach out to and offer to send a top 10 list of ways to survive Valentine's Day? Ask them a question. Get them engaged. Keep them short. Keep them very, very short. Make them questions they can answer easily and they don't have to do research. Don't ask them what their Q4 returnables are. None of your business. Don't ask them what, the most successful marketing campaigns they had last year. Too much thinking. They just something quick and simple. It's a great way to follow up. So that is how I approach bookstores at this point. I always put the information and the marketing in. And I have to tell you that I've got about a 30% response rate. So anywhere from the low 30s to the mid 30s of bookstores will respond favorably to an email that has this approach, this attitude, and these materials in it. If you don't have a marketing plan, if you don't have a sales sheet, if you approach them just going on and on about how fabulous your book is and you don't approach them and how you can be of help to them, that 30% response rate goes way down. But that's why I'm here. That's why I've spent the last hour talking to you guys. We've covered how stores buy books and exactly how they get in. We've covered how to approach the buyers. And if you're not comfortable selling this approach that I have, you're not selling. You're not selling a book. You're being of help to the bookstore. You understand that the bookstore has needs. They need to make money, and you're offering to help them drive people into their stores. And I gave you, as promised, the very specific sales sheets, the marketing plans, the tools. I gave you a line-by-line email that will allow you to get started. And I would love to answer your questions. For those of you who I see several of them are flagged here, I'm absolutely jumping in. I see Etta and Andrea, Carolyn, we've got some great questions. Before I answer your questions, I'm getting to them right next, but let me ask you a question, something that I asked you, right at the beginning. If you're enjoying the webinar, did you find this helpful? Is this idea of being of service, does this make sense? And is it a little more comforting? Do you guys think that maybe you're a little more comfortable at the idea of pitching being of service as opposed to pitching and selling your book to bookstores? Because if that makes more sense to you than walking, blindly into a store and that joke, girding your loins and walking into the fray. I would love to be able to give you all of these materials. You can take these, for those of you who are saying, well, what about the email? Show me the email. I have these emails. I have all of the follow-up emails. I've got templates. I actually, at this point, if you are interested in having all these materials delivered right to your computer so that you don't have to figure it out, Daniel and I are here. We actually teach a class called the Real Fast Indie Book Marketing System. It's a very simple class that comes with all of, like, you know, when I mentioned you need to email these stores, our book marketing system comes with these videos that covers everything I just covered, but much more in depth. But we have an Excel databases of most of the top, actually all of the top independent bookstores in the United States, and many of them in Canada, covering the buyers and the stores. But we have an Excel database of those stores, including emails. And if you'd like to work with me personally so that we can put these sales sheets together, we can come up with that. Are you saying to yourself right now, okay, I don't have a marketing plan? I can help you come up with a marketing plan. We have the templates. I have tons of these outreach cover letters. Somebody just asked, and I will answer your questions, but somebody just said, wait, put the email up. I have all the emails. I have not only the one I showed you, but ones that are perfect for hardware stores, and all the emails when you need to follow up. I have templates for an author sheet and, these sample follow-up emails that I told you about. But you know what else I have that I love? For those of you who are a little nervous, because eventually you may have to get on the phone. Email is great and you get a lot done with email, but every once in a while you need to pick up the phone. I have an entire array of recordings of phone calls that I and my staff have made over the last year to bookstores. We recorded how the conversations went. Some of them went beautifully. We got on the phone, we asked to speak to the book buyer, we got to talk to people. Some of them did not. Some of our calls went way off the rails. And I wanted you guys to hear what experienced salespeople calling independent bookstores, what they go through, what the good, the bad, and the ugly, what it sounds like when it goes well and what it sounds like when it doesn't. And the best thing that we do, we've got all these tutorials, but we also have proof that these tutorials do increase and they optimize your sales. This class is super easy to go through because these videos that I'm talking about, they're very, very short. Some of them are only a few minutes long. And these videos and these Excel databases and the consulting with me and all these templates are great, but what we want you to do is start emailing right away. So what we do for people who buy our class is, yes, we have the database of all the independent bookstores, but we also have the names, addresses, and emails of the top 700 bookstores in the US. So if you don't, at this point, if you don't want to spend the time looking up all of those emails, we already have them. And I'm no different from you guys. I've got a certain amount of time in a day. I hate promoting and selling. I hate selling my books. I've got a self-published book called The Right Way. It makes me nauseated at the idea of having to pitch it and sell it. But the difference between us is I've got the databases, I've spent years talking to buyers, and I know what it is they're looking for, and I'd love to be able to just hand that over to you. And one of the fastest ways that you can convince a bookstore to take your book on, and remember I mentioned marketing? Well, it's all about reviews. And so I actually also offer people who take this class a complete book reviewer database and a submission kit that will walk you through who to send your book to for reviews, how to get reviews so that you can impress booksellers, so that right now you may at the moment be somebody who has a book but you don't have a lot of reviews. Maybe you've got a few on Amazon but you don't have any professional independent third-party reviews. Maybe you haven't been pitching your books to the bookstores at the moment. You haven't known how to get past the reviewers and the gatekeepers. You don't know how to reach out to the bloggers. Maybe you're not sure how to get into bookstores even after taking this class, but you could very quickly take this class, join us in, and the third bonus we have, join us in a closed Facebook group where I'm constantly answering questions and where I can consult with you. And we can get you up and running we can get you up and running in this class with these videos, with all of these materials, including the sales sheets and the templates, the cover letters, the author sheets. The databases alone are worth thousands of dollars, but it's not just those. The tutorials and the time with me and the free hour of consulting, this is over $11,000 worth of materials that Daniel has, over the last few years, he and I have been teaching this class, and this $11,000 worth of material, Daniel is offering all of this usually for $997. That is how much the class usually costs. But today, for Steve's list and just for his group, we are offering this program for $497. This is not just a class. It is a class with lifetime access to updated databases. Every time I get new bookstores, I put them in a list, and once every quarter, we're constantly updating these databases. This access to the closed Facebook group I'm telling you about, where I'm in every day answering questions, there's no cap on that. For as long as I'm around selling and teaching this class, you're around. This is not a limited program that you have to take the class within 90 days. These videos are being updated on a regular basis. We offer private webinars and classes just for our students, where when something new happens in the industry, we bring them up to speed. I would love it if you would consider joining us in Real Fast Indie Book Marketing. It's for $497. You get so much value. Plus, please keep in mind that like all of Daniel's products, there is a 30-day money-back guarantee. You can buy this class, you can listen to the videos, get the templates, see if this works for you. See if it makes sense for you. And if after 28, 29 days it doesn't make sense for you, it doesn't seem to be a great fit, no questions asked. We'll happily refund your money. We have no problem offering 100% guaranteed money back, because we know how many of our students make so much more money by pitching to bookstores. So with that, I am going to start answering a number of questions. I'm going to answer one or two to start, and then I'm going to offer you one more little tidbit about how to get your book into the marketplace. Even, I said that it's not just bookstores, that there's also pet stores, there's hardware stores. So some of this class that I teach covers a whole bunch of retailers, but there's a whole nother market that I want you to read and that I want you to be able to profit from. And that, because it's not just bookstores, there's also the library market. So we do offer this class for $497 just between now and for the next few days. It's normally $997. But for those of you who are interested as well in getting into the library market, which is a little different than the bookstore market, there's some nuances, some differences in the emails and how to approach them. There's differences in what librarians are looking for. It's the same attitude. We want you to be of service. But if you're at all interested in learning how to and getting the databases for the bookstore market, as well as getting your hands on the databases of just over 8,000 public libraries in the United States, we offer that for $697. So with that, I'm going to start answering some of your questions, because I want you to pay close attention to this class, and I want you to understand that the time with me will be well spent. I mean, just 1 hour of my consulting time is usually $350, and this class includes an hour of my time included, just that alone. So what I'm trying to do right now is to look at the questions. For instance, David is asking, are ISBN numbers from CreateSpace and places like that, does it make it harder to get your indie book into the bookstore market? David, let's talk about that for a second, because we cover that in the class and I help you with that. If you have taken a free ISBN from CreateSpace, your book will forever be linked to Amazon.com. And especially now that CreateSpace is folding in with KDP Print, your branding is going to be a little tainted, but there's a way around it. You can buy your own ISBN and re-release your book with the same files. You can simply put a new ISBN onto your copyright page and a new ISBN on the back cover of your book, come out with a new edition and a new pub date, which is gorgeous. Now your book is new again. And when you're asking whether or not a CreateSpace ISBN is a good idea, it's not. Not for the bookstore market and not for the library market. You're not going to get the profits because you have to go through their expanded distribution as opposed to doing it yourself. You're not going to get the credibility because your ISBN, in the industry, we can tell, I can tell, but simply by looking at an ISBN if it belongs to Amazon or not. You don't know how to tell, but we do. So if you get your own ISBN and you're saying to yourself, well, I don't know how to do that, we do. And we make that part of the class. If you need to take your book away from CreateSpace and publish it yourself under your own ISBN, we have a video that shows you how, and I will personally help you. I spend so much time with people. I help them. I can take your files and get you set up with a new copyright page. We give you new barcodes. We help you with that process. We don't make you figure it out on your own. All right. Let's see what other questions we have. Heidi is saying that she's a new writer. And is it okay to send out to a traditional publishing at the same time as marketing this way? Heidi, absolutely. If you are trying to get a publishing deal, one of the fastest and easiest ways that you can get attention by the editorial department is to start bolstering your sales. And when you send query letters out to publishers and to agents, if you can tell them that you're in 80 or 100 independent bookstores, they're going to know that your book is well done, because bookstores they do not take every book that gets pitched to them. They only take the good books. So if you have a good book with a proper cover and a good ISBN, and you have pitched it to the bookstore market, and a couple hundred bookstores have taken your book in, I promise you, as someone who's worked for major houses for decades, they love that. They absolutely adore that an author is going out and already creating proof of demand. And that's all you're doing here. Proof of demand. All right, let's see. We've got a question from Andrea. She's wondering, unless the establishment has Google Docs, she won't be able to send them a PDF of the book because the illustrations take up too much space. Andrea, I have a solution for you. This is how you know you guys need to work with me. Here's the thing. It's called bookconnect.com. Or there's also bookfunnel.com, but there are very inexpensive programs out there. My favorite is called bookconnect.com. Debbie Drum actually owns and runs it. And it's a site that for $20 a year, for only $20 a year, it's a site that will allow you to put a PDF or an EPUB or a Mobi, any version you want of your book up. And bookstores can go and download the book it creates a little landing page for your book, a description of your book. It's got the cover, and then you click, you send the link to the bookstore, and you say, if you'd like to download the book, just click here. They click there. It immediately takes them to a page that says, would you like this book to be sent to your Kindle? Would you like it on your computer? Do you have an Android? It gives them choices. It's super easy. You don't need to email. If you guys are unaware of bookconnect.com or BookFunnel, which is their competitor.com, I recommend that you take a look at them. And I recommend, again, that you take the class so I can be teaching you more stuff like this.
By the way,
yes.
I just wanted to interject for those folks that are wondering how to get to the order form. We've actually dropped the URL into the chat area, so you could click on it right there. Chat is a different place than the questions form field, but just head on over to realfastindiebookmarketing.com/Alcorn or click that link in the chat to go ahead and grab this very special deal. And the other thing I wanted to just say, is that this is the very best deal we have ever put out for both the bundles.
Oh, it's hundreds less.
Yeah, hundreds less. So if you're predisposed to getting the bookstore and library deal, I would just tell you that is by far they're both great deals, but you know, for just $200 more, you get both the library and bookstore bundle at realfastindiebookmarketing.com/alcorn. And once again, that link is in the chat. Head over there right now and grab it. And let's see, the other thing, we've been answering some questions here, and Anthony's marked a bunch of the other ones here. Let's see, we got one from Etta who says, how would a children's book on rats and squirrels in the Tower of London fit into podcast and interviews? Going back to that question, I think that would actually be a great podcast if you are, and we'll hear from Amy on this, but if you were doing any type of a podcast on traveling or a travel to the UK or any type of history type of podcast, those would all be very, very good.
Yeah, guys, we just had a huge wedding over in London, and a lot of the festivities happened right around the Tower of London. You know, Meghan Markle married an American, married a prince. That would have been a wonderful time for you to be, not only to stores but also to the media and to bloggers, to be pitching your book and to be talking up the fact that your book can teach kids about what's going, you know, about London and about the Tower of London. And I haven't read the book, but Rats and Squirrels in the Tower of London, if they're characters that are actually anthropomorphized and you know, and if it's current day or historical, I don't have all those facts yet, but Meghan Markle's wedding would have been the perfect time. Every time they protest in London against Donald Trump, might be time to bring up your book. There's a million ways to tie it in. And I'd love to work with you on helping you come up with some ideas.
Awesome. Yeah, the place to go right there, realfastindiebookmarketing.com/alcorn. The link is in the chat. Another question that we've got here, let's see, from Carolyn. Or did you answer this one? Maybe you answered this one. I buy my paperback books from Amazon where they are self-published on a print-on-demand. Am I allowed to resell the book?
You absolutely are. Create Space. You say you buy your books through Amazon, so I'm assuming you mean Create Space, which is now within the next week going to be called KDP. But they are simply a printer. They are a printer and they offer distribution. You are the publisher. You are allowed to resell your book to anyone whom you wish. But again, if you used a Create Space ISBN, that needs to be swapped out because you don't own the distribution rights to your book. If you used a free ISBN from Create Space, you probably, without knowing it, but what happened is you actually gave away your distribution rights. Yes, you've got the copyright and you're the publisher and you own the book, but you don't own the ISBN, and that is where your book at that point, the distribution rights are now owned by Amazon and Create Space. And I would strongly recommend, and we teach on this all throughout the class, I would strongly recommend, even, you know, you run, don't walk, and let me help you get a new ISBN on that book. But if you used your own ISBN and you simply use Create Space as a printer, which is what print on demand is, it's just printing on demand, you can print as many copies as you want and sell to the bookstore market. Absolutely.
Nice. Okay. And let's see, other questions here. How does a POD book get a sales code so it could be sold in bookstores?
By sales code, I think you must mean a barcode. And if you don't mean a barcode, because I saw that question and I wanted to ask you, if you don't mean a barcode, can you retype the question down in the question box and rephrase it? But how does it get a barcode so it can be, if you don't have a barcode, I'll get you one. I will create one for you. As long as you have an ISBN and you know the price of your book, I will create a barcode for you. There are a number of barcode generators out there, but they charge $50. You know, for instance, Bowker will charge $50 for a barcode. If you're one of my students, you get it for free. I've got a barcode generator. I do them right on my computer.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So the place to go.
So Carolyn, if you've got ISBNs but no barcodes, I can help you out.
Absolutely. And the place to go, realfastindiebookmarketing.com/alcorn. That link is in your chat. So head on over there right now and grab one of these two offers. And it looks like, did we answer all of
No, we got a couple more.
Couple more in here?
And
okay.
yeah, Steve, I really want to thank you for having us on. Your authors have some pretty savvy questions. Very, very impressed by the level of questions that we're getting from people. So
well, it's great, and the
really
time has been great too, because as you've noted, with the big changes happening at CreateSpace, I think a tremendous percentage of us have been using CreateSpace and have just allowed Amazon to assign those numbers, and this provides us a good window of opportunity to change the way we do things. I think since they're making this big move, initially it won't have that much of an impact on our existing sales, but if you're not already selling a ton of books through Amazon, it's time to look at other ways to sell them, and the first step in that process is probably to republish the book, and to do that means going through the whole getting the ISBNs, getting the barcodes, redoing the cover art, and getting the book printed so that you have control of it and can sell it through distribution. And this is just it's a good window of opportunity to do that. But the reason that so many of us didn't bother with that the first time around is that it is complex to figure out how to do all of that, and it can be expensive to do it all independently, one thing at a time, and have to learn all that stuff. And then still you don't have the ideal marketing materials to really get that cut sheet out there and sell to the bookstores. So this is the right time, I think, to take action on all this good information. So I've been really impressed with how rich this webinar was in information, and really impressed with the service that you're offering. And I think that for anybody that is really serious about selling more than 1 or 2 books a month through the Amazon distribution and really wants to get into the bookstores, this is really the way to go.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Steve, for that. And do we have other questions here that we need to answer? If not, the place to go right there, realfastindiebookmarketing.com/alcorn. The link is in your chat.
We do have one.
Yes.
Andrea's asking if she has her own ISBNs but published through CreateSpace, who would she list as the publisher? Andrea, you did not publish through CreateSpace, although I don't blame you for thinking you did. They love to say that. You printed your book and distributed it through CreateSpace. You are the publisher. So if you have not come up with a name for your publisher yet, it's time, and I can help. I'd love to help, but it's time for you to come up with a name for your imprint, and don't call it Iskowitz Books. I mean, you need to call it something that is completely independent. And so, you'd come up with like Dragonfly Books, or okay, not that, that's been taken, but Treetop Media. But you're going to come up with something, and you're in great shape because you own the ISBNs. You can register whatever name you come up with. You simply just go and you put it on those ISBNs through the same company you bought them from, and I will happily walk you through the process. It is not hard. Yeah, you are the publisher. CreateSpace is not the publisher, no matter what they say. I promise.
Awesome. Okay, and let's see here. Yes, Aldo's asking, if I buy the library version of the course and I can't attend for a year, will it still be valid at that time? Yes, absolutely.
Yep. It'll be even richer because people who bought it a year ago, we only had about 4,000 library names. Now we have 8,000. And when they bought it a year ago, you know, and so if you can't get to it for a year, if you're still worried, you are in great shape because it's just going to get bigger and better as the year goes on.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, it won't be $697 a year from now.
Exactly.
You know, as we approach 10,000 names, I'm afraid we're going to have to raise the price a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So so there you go, Aldo. And all right. Looks like we have answered all of the questions. Is there something else that we needed to cover here, Amy?
Not that I see. I think we covered them all. Guys, if Amazon has been your focus, I'd love to help you get into a new market. I hope you will please consider going to realfastindiebookmarketing.com/alcorn. There is a 30-day money-back guarantee that comes with this deal. There's the $497 bookstore class. For just another $200, you can get an entire additional class that teaches you just as much about the library market, plus time with me. And let's be honest, that's fabulous. You guys are asking some very savvy questions, and I would love to be of help where I can.
Awesome. So with that, I really appreciate you all being here. Steve, Danny, thank you so much for putting this great group together. And I'm just going to do one last final call to action and head on over to realfastindiebookmarketing.com/alcorn. I want to welcome all of the folks that have jumped into this program today. You will not be sorry that you did. As a matter of fact, I will actually make this prediction. For those of you that have already jumped in to this deal, I predict that 1 year from right now, you will look back at today's decision to join us at Real Fast Indie Book Marketing as one of the best things that you did to actually market your books successfully. So the place to go, realfastindiebookmarketing.com/alcorn. I really do believe that this could help you change your stars, change what you're doing, and dramatically increase your sales. Plus, it's not just that, but it's also the additional credibility and cachet that you get, the prestige that you get from selling your books in bookstores. So you're also getting that as well. So again, the place to go, realfastindiebookmarketing.com/alcorn. And thank you, Steve. I really appreciate it. Danny, thank you. And we will see you all in the members area. Bye, everyone.
Thanks for the great info. Bye.